Ms. Jacobs?
Here.
Mr. Brister?
Ready.
Mr. Bordelon?
Here.
Yes.
Okay, first thing is public comment. Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody wanna?
Well, I do if nobody else does.
What?
I said I do if nobody else does.
You go first, Robert.
Sounds good. You gotta be seated. You gotta be seated.
I'm gonna sit back.
Oh. Forgive me, I've got a replacement camera person. I want to first of all compliment the board on the expanded agenda. I think that's very useful. I think it'll help the public comment period and keep the comments more focused. Having said that, I only have 6 brief items. I'll cover them all quite briefly. I have more detail. I even kept with the Ronald Reagan philosophy of keeping things to half a page. If anybody wants it, I have copies for everybody. With regard to the minutes of March 19th, y'all have to forgive me. As y'all know, I was outside a good bit of the time and on the telephone, so I don't know whether there was any discussion about revising the employment agreement for Ms. Edmonds. If not, I think that would probably be a good idea. I know 3 of the board members weren't here when the last one was approved. I think everyone in looking over it, if you have looked over it, would note that it has some obvious problems. And so it would be my recommendation, if you have not done so, to schedule for a future board meeting revising the employment agreement. And if you want specifics, I can give them to you privately. I'm not gonna air this publicly. But I think anybody who remembers that employment agreement will recall the obvious problems that exist in light of recent developments. I don't have anything to say on any of the applicants, other than I am a little bit curious as to how a single board member, apparently without board action, was able to accomplish a license not being renewed, not mentioning any names. All I got was a reference to the June 20th, 2011 meeting. And I can tell you at the 11:22 mark of the video on that meeting, the individual said in his defense that he would not be making a decision like that. It would be the board who would make it, and I have that video. So with regard, that's 2 of the items. With regard to the financials, there are numerous auctioneers who have contacted me, wanting to know where things stood on the requested fee waiver that we made. As I'm sure you are aware, I informed them that you and I and Ms. Vanderkamp met briefly prior to last meeting, and I was told that 509 prevents that. That's all I was told, so I'll let y'all elaborate at this time as to what 509 is or why it apparently precluded a license fee waiver. And then I would ask how 509 stops the license fee waiver for those over 65 years old for approximately 17 years. With regard to the attorney contract renewal, I would like to just ask, are any other attorneys considered for this? The attorney contract hasn't been bid out since 2009, my first year on the board. And also I'd like to have resolved that the board has written evidence on file that Ms. Dow carries a malpractice insurance policy. And I will certainly be making a request to see evidence of that in a subsequent public records request. With regard to NAA convention, I have the legislative auditor's minutes from 2002, which this board discussed. There are only 3 individuals who can be approved to attend as far as board members, the NAA convention. Those 3 individuals would be Ms. Steinkamp, Mr. Sims, and Mr. Little. And I have those minutes from 2002 if anybody wants to see them. The LAO clearly said you can only send officers and they must be going in their capacity. I do not know why the board chose to ignore those legislative auditors' directives. In 2005, 2006, it was I know there was one year they voted to send everybody, but that's in direct defiance to that legislative auditor's directive. Finally, the lease. I guess we're probably going to be using this facility just like the IDB is. Which obviously was free, you can't beat that. I think this is an excellent meeting facility, but it does beg the question that when we ask the IDB to pay their half, when who've stayed over there. They said, too bad for y'all, we're out of here. And now the LALB is on the hook for $17,446.15, strictly for that boardroom over there. That's the allocated 252 square feet multiplied by the lease rate, $17,446.15. So I'd like to know if there's any effort to looking at procuring another place in light of the fact. Now I've got 4:30.
Okay, we're okay.
All right. In light of the fact that they're obviously going to use this and we're obviously going to use this, I want to know if there's any effort to look at getting us another place now that we have a boardroom that basically nobody needs, us or them. And with that, I'm done. I did hold it to 4:49.
Thank you.
You bet.
Marvin? Larry?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Larry?
Well, I don't speak good, I speak Aqua.
Okay.
Next month.
All right. Okay, number 3, approval of minutes from March 19th, 2012. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor? Discussion, anyone? Sorry. I forgot the discussion. All approved, all the ayes have it. Okay, number 3B, approval of minutes from January 23rd, 2012.
So moved.
Have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, old business, approval of reciprocal applicants. Cindy, do we need to take these one at a time?
No, all of our reciprocal applicants numbers, well, I should say John Nichols, Kevin Perry, Brian Hammond, James Valentine, Frederick, Bill Snyder, Jason Brooks, and Nicholas Clark are all in order. They have submitted all of their required documents.
Everything's
We
in.
got bonds.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
I would like to be heard on this particular motion. I mean, and I realize that they have complied with the requirements.
You want to do them one at a time?
Well, I'd like to do it globally. I mean, I myself have applied to be an auctioneer in Mississippi. It's the qualifications to be an auctioneer in Mississippi are quite a few hoops to go through. And I frankly think that we ought to have more stringent rules for people coming in from out of state who actually want to hold auctions in Louisiana.
Before any discussion, we need a motion. I'd make the motion to approve the license. If I can get a second, then we can go into discussion.
Okay. Discussion.
Because it's so hard for our auctioneers in Louisiana to go to another state in order to get reciprocity, that I think that reciprocity should be something on a state-by-state basis. And if you don't have it in sync with Louisiana, they shouldn't be approved.
I think we do have state-by-state basis.
That's correct. The statute was written so that we would reflect the requirements of the other state and our own requirements for reciprocity. So to be licensed here in Mississippi, Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, you must pay the same amount of money for the fee. Is that correct? And
That's a lot more, unless they just recently changed it.
I think it's been used at one time, it was $1,500.
yeah, I think it's come down from that, but also.
No, but that's a good point. I mean, that's something I can check.
There are just too many people from out of state that are coming into Louisiana, depriving our licensed people down here of an ability to earn a living. And I have some grave doubts about that. I don't know if it can be changed by the board, if it has to be changed by the legislature. But I think as a group, we ought to band together and do something about it.
It can be changed by the board.
Yeah, we enter into reciprocal contracts. I'm sorry, that word is difficult always. Reciprocal contracts with each individual state. So those are approval by both boards, both the sending board and the receiving board. So that if at any time, and Sandy can certainly provide us with copies of those contracts, we'll look at them and we can make a decision as to whether or not we want to revisit.
Well, as to immovable property, Louisiana is an odd state anymore. There are certain things that you have to know, even when you're auctioning immovable property, which is what I do exclusively. Legion beyond moiety and different things like that. And I would seriously doubt that an auctioneer coming from, say, Virginia or Tennessee or Pennsylvania would know about our archaic Louisiana laws as it's reflected in immovable property here. Our local auctioneers know about it, but I don't think someone from another state would necessarily know about it.
And let me, this is also a concern of mine because it's not only real estate, because we don't have the UCC sections on auctioneering.
Exactly.
Our laws are substantially different with regard to auction, but what we try to do is coordinate with those states as closely as we can.
Can I ask a question?
Can you wait 1 second? I'm sorry, Greg.
I'm sorry.
You've been waiting me for.
I understand what Ms. Jacobs is saying, and maybe what we can do is generate a nice letter to Mississippi when we have a problem like that. Just let them know that some of our people are complaining that they're making it harder for our auctioneers versus what we're doing for theirs. Just send them a little letter saying that. Maybe that might wake them up a little bit.
Yeah, and that would be.
All of the big auctions are going out of state now.
Right.
When people want a big land auction, they're going to get an auctioneer like King Auction or one of the other auctioneers, rather than having it done locally within our own people. And I frankly think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm curious, all of a sudden we've got Virginia, 2 auctioneers, Pennsylvania 1, Georgia 1, Tennessee 2, Mississippi 1. What type of auctions are these people? Do they talk to you about what type of auction? Have they got an auction coming up, somebody coming down here, or what's it?
Well, I can tell you that 3 of them are Ritchie Brother auctioneers.
Which 3?
James Valentine, Frederick,
Oh,
I should start with number 2, Kevin Perry, number 3, James Valentine, and number 5, Frederick Vismeyer from Pennsylvania.
all right, that takes some 3 of the
I can tell you that John Nichols is auctioning with Marvin Henderson. I can tell you that Jason Brooks from Georgia had an auction with Peter Vicari in Metairie area, West Bank. So not Metairie, but West Bank area.
Right.
Ryan Hammock has also a business application further on in our agenda, as well as Nicholas Clark from Mississippi is also applying for a business license.
Then why can't we consider, if they may be coming down here for maybe just a select auction, to give them a temporary license as opposed to a full-time license to come down here and auction? I mean, why can't it be on a case-by-case basis based upon what they're going to auction? Rather than just carte blanche saying, oh, okay, now you're a Louisiana auctioneer and you can come down here and compete with all of our people. I personally have a problem with that because I would like to see Louisiana people make a living first and others second. I'm for the home team. Sorry about that, but I am.
How are you?
Well, and I agree with Ms. Jacobs. I can tell you that in other matters such as hunting and fishing license, whatever the fees were charged, the fees would get charged back. We reciprocate that back and forth in both behalves. And I think we ought to be just as expensive as any other state is to us, and just as hard if there's continuing education or whatever we have to do. I would like to see us get something on the website that would give us information. Maybe it's there and I don't know it, but if I wanted to get a reciprocating license in Texas, what are my qualifications as a Louisiana auctioneer, as well as making sure that, and on both sides of this, that we're covered. Absolutely, I agree with the use Louisiana auctioneers first.
Right.
But this is something we need to take a true look at to make sure that it's equitable across the board, that it's very equal.
And I can tell you, they do everything they can to prohibit Louisiana auctioneers from getting licensed in other states. It's very stringent. Why do we have to have an open arms policy to everyone to come down here? Because the larger immovable property auctions are going out of state, not to local people. They may associate with someone locally, but those people that they associate with, it's not a half and half or a 50-50 split. It's way down on the totem pole just to be able to say, yes, we have a Louisiana auctioneer here. I mean, I think that this is something I personally feel very strongly about. I think that maybe we could have this discussion at a future time.
Madam President, from a protocol standpoint, in our discussion on this table, we usually raise our hands and don't comment back and forth. So Ms. Jacobs being new to this board, we usually go to our president and she calls on us and then we come into debate. And I'm not correct, I just want to enlighten.
I'm glad to be enlightened always.
Very good, thank you.
I can understand auctioneers that work for the international and national equipment auctioneers, like Marvin's a national auctioneer, Ritchie Brothers is international. I can understand them licensing their people to call auctions in the state. And Ritchie Brothers doesn't bother me. I'm gonna ask Marvin a question, whether they do a half a dozen auctions a year in Louisiana, Marvin, if that means.
Beg pardon, I'm sorry.
Ritchie Brothers doesn't do a half a dozen auctions a year in Louisiana.
Probably not that many.
You do, Marvin does a lion's share of equipment auctioneers, equipment auctions in the state. I don't have a problem with them, but I got to agree with Darlene.
Is it legal for me to comment?
I don't think so.
Well, he asked you a question.
Yes,
so
he
I
asked.
ask you a question, you can comment.
You can answer.
All right. I have a very, as Jacob said, she has a strong opinion. I have a very strong opinion
Oh,
about
wait,
that
I
too.
thought you were responding to his question.
Okay.
Yeah, you can comment on, about his question, but you can comment on that at this
The
time.
auction business is a national.
Okay.
I'd like to ask Mr. Henderson, why are you getting somebody from out of state to work?
Well, I've been in the
All right.
auction business. Can I comment?
Go to the podium. Yes, they're asking you questions. Just step up to the podium.
It's just going along with what Ms. Jacobs said, you know.
Well, most of you know I've been in the auction business 55 years, and I have traveled from coast to coast, San Diego, California, to right just Burlington, Vermont, the highest. The auction business, in my opinion, is a national thing, and I am not for restricting people from coming in my state, and I don't want to be restricted to going in other states, because I've had sales in probably 25 or 30 of the states in the continental United States and one in Mexico. I think it's a free market, and there's a difference. There's specialties. There's people that specialize in real estate. There's people that specialize in cattle. There's people horses, automobiles, antique automobiles, collector cars, and equipment. And with all respect to all of you, and I'm not trying to put anybody down or brag on myself, I had a sale this week, and there's not anybody here at this table that could sell my sale successfully. And I'm not trying to be a smart aleck or say anything about it, but it's a profession. And if you don't know that profession and know what to do, you don't do it well. And that's the reason I am for a free market and for free, I'm for licensing, don't get them wrong. And I'm not for penalizing someone else. In other words, I don't want to be penalized. I have a Mississippi license. I have, 12 states or something. I have a Mississippi license. I don't believe they should charge me more than I charge them. Larry said that my license might be costing $1,500. I'm not really sure what it costs. But anyway, I don't think we'll be charged more than we're charged here or more than they charge. But anyway, I am for reciprocity because there's a world of difference, folks. There's a world of difference. What you can sell and I can sell.
Does that answer your question? The mic
Yes.
is going out. Thank you. Go ahead. Anybody else have any discussion? Okay, so we made a
We have a
motion.
motion from Hal, a second by Greg, to issue licenses to
To
seven.
approve of them. No more discussion, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Approval of reinstated applicants. Lewis Adams.
With Lewis Adams, he was previously licensed in Louisiana from 1992 until 2002, and he has submitted a completed application.
Have a,
Say again?
have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Jim?
Is he a Louisiana resident?
Yes, sir, he is. He lives in Angie.
Why did he drop his license in 2002 and come back 2 years later, looking back?
I don't know, our application doesn't ask that type of information.
Auctions too, correct?
Yes, sir, he is.
Any other questions? No?
Oh, in the time that he was an auctioneer, was there a test given at that time?
Yes, sir.
And he has passed tests, licensed and bonded as every auctioneer. Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor of approving Louis Adams, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 3, approval of auction business applicants. Number 1.
Yes, we have Brian Hammock, the owner of Metairie Auctions, coming from.
We're gonna do these individually then?
Yeah, we still.
Okay.
That's the third one's a little bit different.
Okay, so we're gonna start with, do I have a motion to approve, Metairie auctions?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion?
Yeah, tell us about him, please. I'm sorry.
Brian Hammock is the auctioneer owner. Brian is coming to us from Virginia. Brian's plan, I happened to speak to this gentleman on the phone because I was kind of curious about his application because he spelled Metairie wrong. So, I'm going to call and get some, a little more information from him. He was trying to he was trying to do a play on words, and after we spoke, he realized that all the locals will realize he spelled Metairie wrong. I think it was so cute. So he's changed the spelling of his company to the correct version. But his ultimate goal is to auction wine.
Is he gonna be the only auctioneer that's gonna handle the business?
At this point in time, yes, sir. Yeah.
So he has an auction license and he's getting a business license.
Exactly. So he submitted 2 separate applications, 2 separate bonds.
Any other questions? All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving Metairie auctions, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2, Clark Auctions, owned by Nicholas Clark. Do I have a motion to approve Clark Auctions?
I would like to know a little bit about Mr. Clark.
Okay, you
Yeah.
want to make a motion in a second and we'll discuss it?
Yes, I would like to move that we have a discussion.
Second.
On Mr. Clark.
Okay, well, you want to move that we have a discussion and it's seconded, so we'll have to move to approve them then. You have to make a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Okay, I have a second, Hal?
Yes.
Okay, any questions, discussion, now is the time.
Yes, and she said she wanted some
Yes.
information. He specializes in business liquidations, and he's coming to us from Mississippi. And he is the owner of NickClarkAuctions.com, and you guys just issued his individual auctioneer license under reciprocal applicants.
And where is he gonna be based?
His business is based in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm not sure that he's planning on having a physical location here. It doesn't indicate that on his application.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and that would be something I guess our attorney can answer. Having actually for a business application through us, shouldn't he have a home address of a business in Louisiana?
No, it's not required at this time. On a reciprocal, because Mississippi requires separate firm licenses as well as individual, we're requiring them to get a firm license, which you wouldn't have to have anyway. But we're not requiring them to be located, actual physical address. Quite often, as I understand, auctioneers come in and auction at sites. In other words, at the site of the business being liquidated or otherwise. But it's not part of our statute or regulations.
Okay.
We're just requiring them because they require us.
Well, yeah,
Reciprocal.
but you have to have an auction business license to actually do that. Because Mississippi requires both, we require both.
I think Mississippi requires that you actually have a business located in Mississippi. Unless they've changed that recently.
I'm not aware of that. I know that some people do have a reciprocal license through Mississippi, but no one's ever told me that they were required to have a location.
Right, I haven't heard that either.
But we certainly can check.
Maybe they just make rules for me.
I'd like to check on that.
Sure.
Yes, I've already actually written myself a note that I'll check with all of the reciprocal states on what exactly their requirements are, so we can see if we need what
To update
needs to be
our
updated on our end.
And if they specifically require us to have if we were going to put an office
Yes.
in Mississippi, we have to have a home in Mississippi address. Just like this guy wants to put his business in Louisiana, does he?
Right, what we can do is require them to have a local address or work through an auctioneer who's licensed in Louisiana.
They don't require you to have Mississippi address, do
I would ask Mr. Henderson if he wouldn't mind coming, I would like to ask him a question.
You mind, Mr. Henderson, stepping to the podium, please?
My clock is gonna cost you.
Yes, sir. So you have a business license in Mississippi?
Yes, sir.
And you don't have to have a address in Mississippi?
We also have a sales tax reporting number in Mississippi.
Okay, but you don't have to have a permanent addresses?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, that's what I needed to know, clarification, thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Henderson. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Okay, I have a motion for a first and a second to approve Clark Auctions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 3, Thomas Grocery,
Yes.
Thomastown Auction, owned by Gary Martin. Do I
Yes.
have a motion to,
Sorry.
that's okay. Have a first, do I have a second? Second. Okay, any questions?
I do have some information to share with you on this application. This is actually just a fax over application. There's a situation where they hired Auctioneer, who is licensed in good standing with this board, Ivy Ridgedale, to hold an auction it's coming up within the next couple of weeks. And they were alerted to the fact that since they were not consigning all of their items over to Ivy, it was actually like when I spoke to the owner, I think he said it's either like a Family Dollar or a General's, like a Dollar General type scenario, and they plan on holding regular auctions at this site. So the auctioneer let them know they needed to get their own business license. I actually spoke with Mr. Martin on Thursday evening. He called the cell phone several times, and I listened to voicemail, so I called him back because he was urgently leaving messages to me that there was a meeting coming up on Monday. So the application is, like I said, just faxed. There were no original documents in the office yet. He is frantically working on those and has asked me to ask the board here to approve his application pending receipt of all of his original documents,
When's the
as
auction?
the auction is planned within just the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the date. It was sometime in June.
But
Is
he
this
would
guy
have-
an auctioneer?
No, sir, he's hiring Ivy Ridgedale, who is an auctioneer.
He's not turning, is he turning control of his items over to?
No, Jim, he's
No,
not.
sir, that's why he's applying for his own auction business license.
That's why he was told he had to do this, because he's not turning it over. So will he have all of the originals in, if we adjust the motion, will he have all of his original documents and all the paperwork in? He realizes he has to have that before this would be pending approval.
I said that to him several times. I had him repeat it back to me. He understands that this would be just approval from the board pending receipt of a completed application of all documents. It's something that the board has done in the past.
So we need an amended motion. Any other discussion? Do I have an amended motion?
Who made the motion?
Jim.
Jim.
Will you amend it?
I guess so.
Is that a yes?
Well,
A maybe, flip of a coin? Are you gonna amend it, Jim?
I'll amend it,
Okay.
and all paperwork, bonds, whatever,
Absolutely.
and whatever investigation that the attorney does for these, as long as it's all okay, I don't have a problem with it.
Do you have a second?
His second.
You're okay with that?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. Okay. Approval of apprentice applicant. Earl Holland, Supervisor Joe Massey.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
So moved.
And a second. Discussion. You have the paper before?
I do. I have his completed application.
Are they here?
No, unless they came in and I can see them. They're not here. Yeah, Pearl is gonna be auctioning with Joe Massey and Walker. Joe told me that he's known Pearl for many years.
All of the paperwork's in order? Yes. Anybody have any other questions? All right, all in favor of approving Pearl Highland, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, Mr. Sims, let's trade. I'm gonna recuse myself from number 5.
Oh, he just wants you to pass it. He doesn't know that.
Item number 5, approval of business, of auction business applicants. 1 New Orleans Galleries.
Yeah, there are.
Is that all the same one, or just New Orleans Galleries by
Do you want to
itself?
explain or you want me to say?
May I explain it?
Explanation, go ahead.
Yes, it's come to our attention that the auction by the bankruptcy court for the assets of New Orleans Auction Gallery is scheduled for June 1st, with a closing on the sale of those assets prior to the end of June. As a result, because they're not transferring the business, they're transferring the assets, they will be required to have a new license. A, B, and C are the primary bidders that we know about at this point, and they're asking the board to approve them as an auction business so they can continue to operate prior to the July 19th, or the July auction board meeting. Otherwise, they would have to come to a stop. Because the bankruptcy court has to approve the sale, I'm asking the board to go ahead and consider the 3 applications pending the sale, the approval by the bankruptcy court, as well as the submission of all required documentation and payments, so that they can continue to operate without cessation.
I make that motion.
I would like some discussion.
I do want to point out that we do have Mr. Ashton Thomas, who is the secretary on file for Cape Red, our antique collectibles in the room.
I would like some discussion.
Go ahead, Dawn.
I would be for approval only if they have a licensed Louisiana auctioneer actually taking over the company. And I believe Tessa has said that possibly you may be able to get an appointment in that respect. Is that correct?
Yes, as far as I know.
I mean, so
I
if,
can tell you this, I'm sorry.
if Tessa can get that appointment from that particular, from one of these companies,
On all 3 of the applications that have been submitted, they have all listed Tessa
I
as
mean,
a
then I would be for it, because she certainly is very qualified in that particular area, rather than just getting someone else that's not qualified to come down here and operate it. So with that caveat, I'm for it.
All right, Aaron, you said they request. Is this a formal request from the Eastern District, the Louisiana Bankruptcy Court?
This is actually a formal request from the attorney for New Orleans Auction Galleries, as well as the 3 individual bidders that you see today. Because if they did not request it, they would have to stop pending they could not do an auction prior to our July meeting. They have no right to a temporary license if none of these are reciprocal requests. Now, I want to point out too, we have D unknown. There is a possibility that other bidders may participate. We're not aware of those, but I did want to make the board aware that that's a possibility, that there may be more. Again, they would have to be approved by the bankruptcy court, and they do have a deposit requirement as well as others. I'd also point out to the board that we are required to request of any applicant for a business license to list the licensed auctioneers they will be using. That is a requirement of the statute, and all 3 of the ones that have done so have provided a list of licensed auctioneers who will be contracted. If they stop using licensed auctioneers, their business license automatically lapses. And we can cease and desist them.
Well, let me just tell you what my concern is. What I don't want, I know at least 2 of the people are applying, Mr. Rowell and Mr. Schaffenberg, they're not auctioneers. They're businessmen. And what I would not want is someone going into the bankruptcy court, putting in the highest bid, getting the inventory, and then letting every Tom, Dick, and Harry come in and sell the inventory or auction it off without in fact being licensed.
That's what I'm saying, it would
Yeah.
automatically terminate.
Right.
The business
Well, I
license
mean-
would not be any good at that point.
You know, my caveat is unless they have a licensed auctioneer that's actually going to take over the company at the time of the act of sale, I would be against it. If they do, and I do understand that Tessa has been offered a job with all three, then I would be for it.
Well, and I want to clarify something. We're not asking that the licensed auctioneers take over the company. They have to be employed by the company
Yeah, employed, absolutely.
in some fashion, but they don't have to be the owner. I don't believe Ms. Crone is a licensed auctioneer either.
Any other discussion? Who made the motion?
I made, I do have one question for discussion.
Go ahead, Howard.
We're not making any action on item D, which is unknown. We're just
That's
making a
correct.
decision.
That's correct. Although, the only question we've been asked, and this is up to the board, if they wanted to approve someone on an unknown status, otherwise,
I would not.
without
Right
them
now.
filing the same paperwork that the others have required. Otherwise, they cannot do it. New Orleans Auction Gallery would be forced to not be able to do a July auction, which I think they have one scheduled at this point.
How you gonna amend your motion just to cover A, B,
That-
and C?
And that,
Well,
and that's my
original motion
concern.
was
That's
that.
all I have so far.
The original motion was A, B, and C. That's why I wanted some clarification on D. What was it put in there for? And, I mean, are we opening a checkbook or what are we doing there? I want to
No,
make sure
no,
that.
sir, we would not open a checkbook on any of these because all of these have to meet certain requirements set by the bankruptcy court.
But anybody can come in at the last minute on into the bankruptcy court and put in a bid.
But they could not have a license unless they met all of our requirements. The question is, what does the board want to do? If that does happen, do we tell the bankruptcy court they cannot operate until our July meeting?
So I would
Right.
amend to council recommendation. What are you recommending us for us to do on this matter?
I'm asking you actually, and this is entirely up to you because it's an unusual request. If there is a fourth or other, bidders other than the three we have listed here, that we allow them to operate in July, pending the July meeting. Otherwise, I've got to shut them down in the bankruptcy court. I'm not sure what kind of reaction I'll get.
Up on, coming up with all the requirements that they need.
That's correct. Now, they would have to file
Of
the-
the other three.
Right, application, licensed auctioneers, bond, and we've made that clear to the attorneys who are involved in all of this, that they have to meet all of our requirements before they can operate.
Well, Counselor, all it would mean if there's a fourth bidder is that they come in, they put in a check and they buy the inventory. It means that they can't hold the auction. But I would sure like to know who we're giving permission to do the auction.
Yeah,
I mean, rather than just doing a D, anybody else can come in and, I would be against that.
and let me say this.
I think that's a dangerous maneuver myself.
Well, let me say this again. I don't want to get the board in an adverse position to the court, and that's one of my concerns, because if we came in and told the court they couldn't operate after purchasing, that could be a problem. I don't know that's going to happen. I think.
So that's why you put D in there. was to
I put
cover
D in
it.
there, one, to let y'all know, and two, if you want to do it, we could do at least a temporary. Otherwise, we have to tell them that, I don't care if they got their application in, they got licensed auctioneers doing it, they've got a bond, they cannot operate until
And I'm in a
July.
unique position because I'm sitting here with you as a board attorney and her with great attorney experience trying to decipher which way I should go on this issue.
And-
So I would like to have some more open discussion on this. What you're telling me is absolute. I kind of feel like I don't want to open checkbook, but then I don't want to hold somebody out and they file suit for us holding them out, not giving them an opportunity to have that unknown player come in. Ms. Jacobs, help me with that.
I surely can. I mean, it's up to, the federal bankruptcy judge is a judge, he's a federal judge, so he's got ultimate authority. And I think that if he wishes to allow someone, D, to come in and approve him to auction, that he has the power to do it. But I doubt that he would do it, because I think it's a matter for the board to vote on. I'm just afraid that not knowing who D is, I wouldn't want to give them authority to come in on this New Orleans Auction Gallery, which is some of the finest movables that they have in Louisiana. It's a prime auction house. You just come in and take it over and operate it without knowing who they are and what they're going to do.
Then
So I have a problem with
I
that.
would like this, if you don't mind. Let's do the floor.
You got the floor.
Okay.
You got any discussion outside the restroom?
Well, my discussion was gonna bring, as not president of this board, but as somebody who is well informed on what's going on with this auction, I would like to bring Tessa to the podium so I can ask her a couple of questions.
With the understanding that she's recused. and
She's
cannot-
recused herself, but
She can answer questions, she cannot influence the voting because
Right.
of
I
the
just
ethics.
want clarification.
Tessa, you mind coming to the podium?
And of course, we have the gentleman representing Susan Brown. interest
I
also.
want to hear from you as well.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Robert. Put me on YouTube.
And my question to you would be, on these three that are gonna be there versus having the unknown, can, not as a board member, as an auctioneer, give me an opinion of your thought of this?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea who the fourth person would be. From what I understand, just from what I've heard, it's just an option in case someone wanted to come in and bid, that the bankruptcy court wanted to leave that open. Is that correct? Anna can really answer that more than I can because she's talked to the attorneys where I have
Just wanna
not.
make sure you didn't know anything that we needed to know.
No, I don't know anything at all. I do know both the, A, B, and C, and that I have agreed to auction for.
But you've only agreed to auction for those three.
Right, no one else
Yeah,
has
no one
asked
else.
me.
To my knowledge, there's no other bidders. And let me say this, I would like D to be kept separate anyway, because I don't think,
On a separate motion.
yeah, because anything we do with regard to an unknown bidder at the bankruptcy auction
Thank you.
would be somewhat different from A, B, and C, who have filed applications, who we have on file, who've obligated themselves already. Is my understanding from the attorney for New Orleans Auction Gallery in bankruptcy that the court is going to require them to continue operating New Orleans Auction Gallery as is, and that's some of the conditions of the actual sale, which are available to anyone who wishes to do that.
All right, with that being said, I will go ahead and keep my motion as it was with A, B, and C, and, and then I'm through the discussion on that behalf. We'll move to D and home.
Can I throw in just a piece, just so that everyone in the room is aware? Cape Red has issued a complete application with the exception of their bond. The B and C applicants were simply faxed versions that just came over on Thursday. Just so that everyone knows, I do not have original completed applications on any of them.
And it's all gonna be A, B, and C, will be pending
Pending,
all,
that's correct.
Absolutely,
That's
pending the
correct.
pending
sale.
all paperwork in order.
I have it as pending the sale.
I want you to amend your motion
I
to
will.
A, B, and C before we do this to, on the paperwork.
Yes, I would amend the motion to make sure that all paperwork is in order and bonds and looked over by our standing attorney.
Second. We have a second.
Was that the
We
one?
have a second.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Amended to include all paperwork, necessary paperwork and bonds. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, item D. We'll make a motion to accept item D.
I would like to make a motion not to accept item D until we know more about who item D is. And that's something that hasn't been revealed yet. I mean, you're voting on something that we don't know anything about, and I think that's always dangerous. And it sets a very bad legal
We have a
precedent.
second.
I'd like to make a secondary motion that we
We gotta have
accept
a
D.
second. We gotta have a second.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna make the motion that we,
Yeah, let that one die for a second.
All your motions died, do I have a second?
Okay?
I would like to make a motion similar to hers, but appoint somebody on this board to be a go-to person. That way, if D does come up and the bankruptcy court needs an answer, they don't have to wait 60 days for our next meeting. Kind of like I am the point person on New Orleans Auction Gallery and stuff. And I would suggest maybe Mrs. Jacobs be that person.
If you don't want me to do it, I'm happy to do it.
We got a motion, do we have a second? I'll second. A motion made, second.
Discussion.
Can we make, got a motion now?
Still in the process of writing it, but basically, Ms. Jacobs made the motion that, I'm sorry, Greg made the motion, I know I have it written. Greg made the motion that if applicant D does come up, that there be a member of the board appointed, possibly Ms. Jacobs, to review the application so that business did not cease.
All right, discussion.
Yes, thank you. I think it's an excellent idea to have a board member there, but it would be actually acting in conjunction with our attorney. we don't wanna, go need to work together. I wanna make sure that's said out loud, and,
That's how we do it now, you know,
we're not taking her out of the picture,
Oh,
we're
no.
not overriding it.
No, she actually handles
Yeah,
it,
the attorney
contract
would have that, and you'd have a go-to board person on that consensus. With that, I'd be okay with that motion.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, seeing none, motion.
All right. Mr. Bordelon?
Yes.
Mr. Brister? Yes. Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yeah.
Mr. Song?
Yes. Chair. Motion carried. The chair exercises the position. Darlene Jacobs will be the board representative since she's in New Orleans. Her backup will be Greg Bordelon. Now Dow will participate in that. Everybody okay with that?
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Good job. Number 5, new business. Approval of financials. Current year budget review. Do I have a motion to approve the, a second? Okay, let's talk discussion about the current year budget review. Everybody has a copy? Does everybody have a
Yes,
copy?
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
All right. Anybody have any questions about that, or Cindy, you want to report anything?
Mr. Lamar has the report.
Mr. Lamar, our treasurer, you have a report?
I have the report. We just looked at all the figures, all the projections, and we also have a projection, but they had made this projected budget based on the information that we had in the 2011-2012 period. And so this is a projected budget based on this information. We cannot get it, we'll see, but this is the way it is. And it appears to be all in order. It does give us the necessary information. We're beginning to watch very carefully some of the expense items. And there's several items that will be discussed throughout the year that will be pertinent to particular problems. But anyway, this is the budget. I recommend that it be accepted.
Does anybody have any questions
You want
for
the
Mr.
issue?
Lamar? Any questions for Mr. Lamar?
Move.
You already have.
All right, we got Jim, the first, and Lamar, second, to approve all of it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2, beginning fiscal budget for 2012, 2013.
So moved.
Second,
I second.
discussion, Mr. Lamar, do you have anything to report about that?
No, it is a projected budget
Okay,
based on the results of what we have this year and what we have historically year to year. And it's based on this figure, and it can be plus or minus 5% or something to that. It's still a projection. But it is accurate as it sits.
any questions for Mr. Lamar? Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2, attorney report, investigative report. I'll turn it over to Anna.
First of all, legislative report, legislature is still in session and will be for a few more weeks. I have seen nothing of any great interest to this board pass through. If someone has a question about any particular act or bill, I'll be glad to look it up and respond to you. Number 2, if I can go on to the questions for a board purchase, there was a question that arose at our last meeting regarding the board purchasing its own building. I think Sandy looked in that, contacted our real estate office for the executive branch of government, and the governor's office included. And they advised us that we have to have specific statutory authority in our statute to allow us to own and purchase real estate. So that is not presently in our statute. If the board wishes, we will certainly start putting that together, but it can't go through until the next legislative session. If it's accepted, then, because next year technically will be a finance year, and we can only get a few bills in during that period. So it gives us approximately, a little less than a year to make that decision. If we want to do it though, we need to go ahead and ask me to go ahead and draft that up, and I'll have it for the next meeting for approval, so we can go ahead and start working on getting it into the next legislative session.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we do that, and I have some discussion on that, Madam
Second.
Chairman.
All right, have a first and a second that we write up, that Anna writes this up, and discussion, go ahead.
You know, as being a Realtor also, what I did after the last meeting was, on the computer, we ran a list of all of the locations in Baton Rouge for corporate offices that are condos. And you had some of them under $100,000 in very strategic locations. I think you could get a very good buy on something like that. And I think it would be worthwhile because it's yours. You don't have to wait to see if you're going to be able to use them or not use them. And if it doesn't work out, you can always sell it, probably at a profit.
That sounds good. Robert's good. Al?
I would just say, in the time that the legislature being held, Speaker of the House is from our area, and we got a limited legislative delegation from Southwest Louisiana. I could definitely do some lobbying with him if we decided to get this draft through to make this happen.
Okay.
No, I don't foresee a real problem with this. It was just a question, we have so many bills in next year which are not related to financing. This may qualify as that, but we'll certainly look into it. I'll go ahead and get that draft underway.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? You have a question, Mr. Lamar?
Yes, I do. We're not authorizing to go forward with a parent.
No, we're on the motion.
Okay.
No, the motion is for Anna to write this up to get it approved. We have to get it approved. That's all we're doing is we're gonna give ourselves the option to be able to buy real estate. Right now, we don't have that option.
As long as it's not a commitment.
No, sir, we're just getting the approval. Any other questions? Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Continue with your report.
I believe that's all of my report today.
Do I have a motion to approve the county report?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
I was going on
Discussion.
here.
All right, Jenny, you have a question?
I'm gonna discuss this litigation and stuff, and I move to do that before we get to session.
Okay, we have a motion to go. What number?
We-
Go in that.
I thought we were going to be on 3. We're not on 3?
No,
On V3?
we're still on 2.
We're on two.
As part of our
Okay.
report, we got litigation pending on this back page, I want to start it before the litigation, maybe
Okay.
we want to get to session.
And so what do we need to go into?
You have to have a roll call vote. You have to have a specific reason, which is pending litigation.
Okay, I have a first to go.
Can we wait for that item? I'm sorry to interrupt. Can we wait for that item before we go back into it?
Well,
It has to be done on the
Under
attorney
the
report for the
attorney.
past, you go past it, it's adjournment after that.
Yeah, I don't think-
Right, no, it's
not
It's
specifically listed.
on, yes, it's on that item under the attorney's report, it's just required a whole page. That's why it's not there. Just to explain it out, so, right, Cindy, you just kind of have that idea.
So if you
Okay, I
can-
have a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. Do I have a second?
I second.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Mr. Dorlon?
Yes.
Mr. Brister?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Ms. Steinkamp?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
And for the record, let it be said that the pending litigation, if we talked about an open meeting, I believe that it would damage the actual litigation itself against us. And that should be reflected.
That is on the record.
Mr. Chairman, can we have about 5 minutes? Right?
Yes.
Yes, and can I just say really quickly that the Louisiana Municipal Association, who voluntarily lets the state use this office, has requested that there be no loitering in the parking lot or at the front door, so it can be out in the halls or.
Litigation status only.
Correct.
That's correct.
You're 100% sure that's not going to put us in a trick bag?
You mean, will Mr.
Well,
Burns
yeah,
file a
I-
complaint? I don't know if he's gonna file a complaint or not.
Well,
All I'm asking is an update of where we are on this litigation that's
Okay.
been going on since I've been on this board.
All right.
Now, we can do that in open session. if-
Now, I propose that we do it in open session. Why do we have to go into
Well,
executive
we
I
session?
thought it had to be an agenda.
No, it does not.
No, because litigation, actually, that's for anybody to look at. It's a court matter. It shouldn't be, we shouldn't be,
We've already voted,
I know, we had a
well,
first and a second.
I don't know why you
to
have to
go
go to executive session for that.
Executive session.
Just want to know where
Who
a
made
case
the motion to
stands.
go into executive session?
Jim made the motion.
Jim, you made the motion. Do you want to pull your
I'll
motion?
pull it as long as nobody has a problem doing it in open session. I don't care. I'll pull it,
I
yeah.
would like to call for a vote on that, Madam Chair.
I would need.
How do you take away a vote that's already
Right.
been done?
You have to do it with
You can
another
rescind it. I would like to rescind the vote to,
You can
go
amend
into, or amend it, to change executive session on that particular issue to an open meeting.
Okay, second, I have a first and a second. Roll call vote.
All right, Mr. Bordelon.
No.
Mr. Richter. Ms. Jacobs.
Yes.
Mr. Little.
Yes.
Mr. McMillan.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
No.
Ms. Feinstein.
Yes.
We have, two, yeah, motion passed.
Motion passed. Okay, we're going to discuss pending litigation.
Actually, no. Are you guys completely finished with the attorney investigative report?
Yeah, I'm finished with my report, yes.
Okay, so we had made a motion to,
We had made a motion, yes, there was a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation by Jim, seconded by Greg, then it was amended by Jim, seconded by Greg, to not go into executive session, but to discuss the pending litigation in open.
I didn't second that second one.
I think I seconded it.
Oh, I'm
yes, she
sorry.
seconded, and we had a roll call vote, and it
Yes,
passed.
we had a roll call vote and it passed, 5.
So here's the original motion.
Jim.
Okay, so you wanna, we have a motion and a second, so now we have discussion.
Well, I'm going to state something right off. No, yes, I can. And she advised me to. So you want to go against your own board member?
Robert, come out. I will call, if one of the board members asks him a
So ask
question.
him a question.
Okay, you asked him, somebody asked Mr. Burns a question?
I think what he wants to do is to make a statement.
That's
Any-
fine.
but-
Robert can make a statement. I don't have a problem.
That's what he wants to do.
Well, I'm going to make this.
Time out, please, one at a time, Robert, wait a minute.
Very good.
Okay, did someone ask Mr. Burns a question? Because we've had public comment. Hal?
Mr. Burns, would you like to make a statement on this behalf? If you would, I'd like to hear your statement.
Very,
I would like to do it also.
very good. On the record.
Step up to the podium, Mr. Burns.
You can hold this.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. On the record, I mean, if it isn't known, I don't mind sharing it. Late last week, my attorney delivered a letter to this board. I have submitted everything pertaining to it to him, including the notice that I got about the character discussion.
That's not what we're discussing.
Are you going to just cut me off? Because I'm going to make my point.
Well, wait, if we're not discussing that, then
It's relevant to what y'all have just done.
Well, let's let him make the statement.
Go ahead,
Y'all,
Bob.
go ahead. Let him make the statement.
Exactly. And I provided him with that letter. I have followed my attorney's advice to a T. He told me no discussion to me was appropriate at this meeting. So that's what he said. I'll let you know that. I'm done.
I called him to the record, but I agree, we should not discuss anything to do with Mr. Burns.
Right, or his character.
Right.
or his character or any
I
of
didn't think we were.
Right, we're not gonna do that.
Well, I brought it up.
I can assure you that won't be done.
That
I'll
will
stop
not be
that.
done.
Then,
That was not gonna happen.
well, I got a letter saying my character would be discussed, so.
No, it said if.
Oh,
When he says if,
Robert, what I'm asking is clarification, so you'll know. I want a report on Robert Burns versus Dow, Robert Burns versus
Right,
Edmonds.
where it stands.
That's where I.
That's it?
That's it.
Well, somebody said something about all this stuff down on the,
No, you're not gonna come up in there.
I'm not?
Not gonna.
Oh, well, then y'all go right ahead.
okay.
But I know that wasn't unanimous consent a while ago.
One at a time, and if you want to speak, please go to the podium. Okay, yes, Jim.
Now, please, somebody give me a report on these two cases.
With regard to Mr. Burns' suit against me, that is pending in Judge Caldwell's court. I am not representing myself, so I can't give you an absolute status at this time. With regard to Robert Burns versus Edmonds, that suit was decided by Judge Fields in favor of Ms. Edmonds, and I believe that judgment was signed May 1st, and the parties to bear their own costs.
Okay. Okay, all right, so now, number 3, moving right along. Attorney contract renewal. Contract offered to be the same terms as in previous years. The new contract will change the dates of service only.
I would like to make a motion to keep Anna. I think Anna Dowd does a great job for the board. And of course, she should be paid. I've looked at the amount of money that she's being paid. It's certainly very nominal compared to what lawyers in my area get. And I think we need a good lawyer. We need a good woman, too. And
Okay, I have a first, do I have a
really get
second?
in there and do it. I'm for Anna, 100% Anna. You're a good lawyer and a great person.
Okay, I have a first and a second.
Second.
Discussion?
The only discussion I had was I wanted to make sure that, in which, that we legally did this, bid it, whatever we have to do, but I found out you don't have to bid it, it's state price. Because my suggestion was that we defer, or we give a 9-day extension until we make sure all these questions are asked and stuff like that. But I also found out we can terminate an employment after 30 days, I think.
30 days.
So I just,
30 days for the notice.
my questions were asked.
Both parties.
Right, she can cancel us.
Right.
Well,
Exactly what I was gonna say, is it's been reiterated to me that she basically works on a 30-day at-will on this board. That if we wanted to at any time change out our attorney, and we felt like we needed to do that, with 30-day notice, we could do that.
That's
So
correct.
I'm completely satisfied with what we're doing here.
any other questions?
I move that we continue the contract.
That was your motion, and I have a motion and a second from Hal. And there
Call
aren't
for
any
a
other
vote.
questions, discussions? I'm gonna call for a vote.
President Fuller? All right, Mr. Bordelon?
Yes.
Mr. Brister?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
I have the
Motion
contracts
passed.
here that need to be signed today. I'm gonna pass it around. Of course, Tessa's gonna sign as the chair. Anna's gonna sign herself. We need 4 witnesses. So if we could just have the same 4 witnesses, if you wanna just sign it like that, I can pass them.
You need to sign it 4 times.
There's 4 copies, yes.
All right. Okay, we're gonna pass that around, just take a moment. We're gonna move on to,
We can move on.
yeah, I am. Number 4, Department of Justice contract renewal. We'll have a motion, is the contract offered to be at the same terms as in previous years? The new contract will change the dates of service only.
This
Have
is,
a-
yeah, and this is just to clarify, this is the Attorney General's office. So this is so that when we do have an administrative hearing, they come in and they fulfill their role as the administrative hearing officer.
Have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, yes.
Second. All right, I have a first and a second. Any questions? Comments? If there aren't any questions, comments, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So we're gonna pass this
Right,
contract.
we're gonna pass them also, and then if we wanna just pass them around and let the same 4 people be on these, well, Anna, you can be a witness on these. Actually, we only need 2 signatures for witnesses on this.
That's correct, we don't need 4.
We're not gonna witness Rick and Jim D's.
On this one too?
No,
Okay.
that one's all 4.
Board members.
Oh, she's just witnessing that Tessa signed it.
Just witnessing my signature. All right, number
He was ready and pass it back.
Number 5, approval of third-party contract. This is a proposal of Larry Bankston, who is seated to my left, attorney at law to handle disciplinary matters when board attorney has conflict. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? I have a second by Darlene.
And I'd also like discussion.
Question, yes, absolutely. Discussion, questions. Who's first? You have a question, Darlene?
No, I just have discussion. Larry Bankston is an excellent attorney. I think we are very lucky to have him. He's got quite a few credentials. and I'm honored to think that he's going to be able to represent the board. You need someone that's experienced in these matters. He's very experienced. I've been practicing for 42 years. He and his firm are well known, and I strongly recommend that we get someone of his caliber.
Any other discussion, Mr. Lamar?
Yes, I have some reservations. That comes with a lot of baggage too. Is that not true, Ms. Davis?
No, I don't think it does come with a lot of baggage. I don't know any baggage for Mr. Bankston in the legal community. He's never been censored by a court that I know of, and as I said, I've been practicing for 42 years, so if you had been, I would know about it.
That's longer than I've been practicing.
Well, I'm probably older than you are. At 67, I might be the oldest one on the board. I mean, it's very difficult to get really good lawyers that are experienced in these types of matters, and usually they're very high priced. I think Mr. Bankston comes very reasonable to us, and I think he's got the qualifications that we need to get these matters resolved.
Greg?
Okay, what I'd like to ask, I know
Yeah, I
we
think
have
we
to
need one.
vote on it. I guess we'd have to vote on it first, but if we do agree, I would like to go into executive session to discuss our legal rights with Mr. Bankston.
Legal rights with regard to,
Just to the board's legal rights.
I guess,
If we're gonna hire him as attorney, I got some legal questions I would like to ask him.
Okay, well, let's, go ahead and do this, and then we'll ask Mr. Mason if we can go into it. Right.
Yes.
Right, he'll have to respond to that, okay, but let's go ahead and get the, vote on the approval of the third-party contract. Do we have any more questions or discussions about approving Mr. Bankston, as the third-party contract? Any other discussions? All right, have a first and a second then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it. All right, motion
And
passed.
we've got 4 copies of this one as well. Tessa will sign it, obviously, Larry, we need 4 signatures. Anna, that's the copy of your signed contract.
once he is now an employee of the board or contract with the board,
Let him sign this and then you can,
and then we'll,
it'll be official.
section 1 of the executive session.
And just not official question, but just for clarification, we can also get rid of him in 30 days.
Everyone.
It's a
All
standard
contracts.
yeah.
It's standard.
Lawyers, professional contracts of all kinds, including legal contracts, all have that provision in there.
And let me say this too, that the attorneys did not make up these contracts. These are contracts that have come straight from the Office of Contractual Review, specifically for attorneys, written by the state, not by Anna or Larry.
We can go to executive session after the last item too, if I want to do that.
You want me to respond? Can I?
Yes, go right ahead.
In executive session, you have to specifically describe the purpose of that executive session. And there's a number of exceptions within the law. Initially, there was a discussion about whether or not there was going to be a discussion about character of an individual and the requirement that you give that person notice. That was not being used. The discussion earlier was section 2, which is strategy sessions or negotiations with respect to collective bargaining, prospective litigation after formal written demand, or litigation in open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or the litigation position of the public body. There is some threatened litigation, but as far as I can see, unless the board can tell me, there has not been a formal demand. What a formal demand means that the board has received a letter from a complainant who says, X, I want this to happen, or Y, I want this to happen. Without a formal demand, I don't believe you have, while you have threatened litigation, you do not have any litigation in which there's been a formal demand. So I would not recommend that you go into executive session. I would be certainly glad to answer any questions concerning your rights as board members and what potential liability may be there or whatever. I can answer that, but I can't recommend, based upon the information that I have today, that you have threatened litigation in which there has been a formal written demand.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bankston. Okay. Back to Back to the entry. Number 6, officer elections for 2012, 2013.
I have a motion that we, I motion for Mr. Sims to be the vice chairman.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And a first and a second on vice chair. Any discussion? All right, I have a first and a second that Mr. Sims will remain as vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. B, secretary treasurer. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that Lamar serves as secretary treasurer for another term. Why? He did a job.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Lamar, are you willing to do that?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right, anyone else, anybody have a question? All in favor of Mr. Lamar for Secretary and Treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Almost said no.
Almost. but
You
not
Too
almost
late,
said
you got a year now.
I was gonna say, you don't have a 30 day.
Yeah.
Number 7, NAA convention attendance requests.
No, this is.
I know, usually, I believe the statute says that
The
officers,
board
the
made a
head
decision
positions,
some years ago.
that the officers can go. I cannot attend. Mr. Sims?
I can't do it.
Mr. Little?
Fish fry. No, that particular week.
So if there's anyone else who would like to go, can we make a motion?
The board can certainly make a motion if someone else wants to go to
To
have
represent the board?
Yes.
I don't think you can do that because we voted only the,
No, this is
No,
the
that's
board.
what I'm saying.
You voted it the first time. If you
Right.
want to now amend your
oh,
vote from.
okay, but you'd have to make.
Make a
amendment
motion.
to do it.
No, you just have to make a new motion saying since the
Right.
3 of them don't want to go.
Right.
Look,
Anybody?
I'll make a motion if anybody wants to go, because I'm
I
like,
want to say it, I want to make a statement.
Okay, do I have to?
Well, is there a motion or a second?
You wanna go? Just say you wanna go, to get a
I got
volunteer.
a statement to make.
well, look,
Wait a minute,
I'll make
time
a
out.
motion,
Hey, somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that whoever else wants to go,
Let's make a
we'll
motion
make an
about,
amendment to
how's
the
this?
rules.
Somebody make a motion about the NAA convention attendance.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I'll make
Have a
that.
first, do I have a second?
I say.
Okay, first and a second. Discussion, Jim?
Now, we just got through the legislative altar and got hit pretty hard on a lot of different things. Hannah, does that statute say?
no.
It does not say what's been iterated in this meeting, but only 3 can go, and 3 won't go.
No, specifically, as I recall, the board voted that only the 3 would go some years ago. As a result, that's the only one that should go. However, the board itself wants to make a decision, but someone wants to represent them. I'm not aware of any barrier to allowing that to happen, but you just can't do it, you just can't send somebody and not have a board vote on it.
All
Okay.
that.
It has to be approved ahead of time.
That's correct, because you're spending board money for it.
All that, just move the code, man.
But no one wants to go. Hal?
I don't want to go, but this board could also overturn and say, if we wanted to send president, vice president, all our board members, we could make a motion and we could vote it, and then we could all go. We could overturn.
Your own vote, yes.
Yes,
that vote previously,
yes.
which I don't see a point at that because I don't see anybody just saying who wants to go.
Well,
Or not able to go.
but
Well, I know we
also,
did this one year before where we did because we offered all the board members to go. I believe that's when they had the big issue with eBay and live auctioneers, and there were new laws, so that was gonna be
It's in
discussed. whether they
Spokane,
changed.
Washington this year, I would certainly urge all of you to be members
One,
of the NAA.
please,
You want to go?
Well, he asked me a question.
where's it gonna be held this year?
Spokane.
Washington.
Oh, in Spokane?
Okay, I'm northern.
I'll be up there.
I mean,
All right, so
I'd
that
like
was
to-
why
I'd like
the
to
time.
open for this discussion. The problems that the state is having fiscally, I mean, I feel that if the board members, the elected board members do not want to go and any individual wants to go, we ought to, of course, sanction that, but I think they ought to do it at their own cost. Because I just don't think we have enough money that we can be squandering around for a trip to Washington to go to a national convention. think if someone wants to represent the board and spend their own money to go, I mean, I think that would be fiscally responsible. And we are in an austerity program this year within the state. I mean, everything's being cut.
Jim, you have a question? Comment?
What, I take it that this is for Sandy to go
No.
over.
No, Sandy's not able to.
No.
Let's go and just.
She can go if she wants to.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she was, that was.
I mean, like last year, that was.
She can always go, no, this is not about.
That's why I let, y'all want to ask a question, what is NOLA?
The National
LALB.
Auctioneers, NOLA, the National Auctioneers Licensing Law Officials Association, of which I'm the vice president.
Okay.
And what is the date that
Will
they
you
want to have
ask
the
me-
meeting? What is the date?
Will you
It's
ask me to
July,
reaffirm the
6th,
legislative
17th,
auditor's office
is
director?
when the NAA convention starts, the day after the next board meeting here. It runs Tuesday through Saturday. So the 17th through the 21st.
Kyle, you have a question?
I have a question for Mr. Burns.
What is that
Oh.
question? And Mr. Burns, will you step to the podium? to answer the
Yeah,
question,
would you,
please?
I think
All right.
he's been, and the reason I want to ask him, he's been around a number of these meetings, and he has some input on this, in the legislative auditor report, and what they've said about this.
I'm just gonna tell you, it's flat wrong. You can't just interchange somebody and say, we're gonna send Miss Jacobs because Mr. Sims doesn't want to go. They were very emphatic in that. They said it must be an officer of the board, and it must be declared that they are going in, well, I'm just frustrated that I made it as clear as I could.
Wait, Kyle's listening, please.
And they must be going in their capacity. And they made the statement that to do otherwise is a misuse of LALB funds. Now, yes, that is tricky. We only talk about members here. Sandy can go every year. Then there's no restriction on that. But when you're talking about board members, they made it very clear, the only three that were approved are the chairman, the vice chairman, and the treasurer. Those are the only three officers you have. And they have to be going, it has to be stated on the record that they're going in their official capacity, but you can't just swap out one member for the other. That's one reason I didn't have any reservations in proposing that Reverend Phillips go, and I'm just lightly touching that a few years ago because he was the treasurer. Had he not been an officer, I wouldn't have made that substitute motion.
Does that answer your
Thank you, Mr.
question,
Burns. It
Hal?
did answer my question.
Okay,
Yes.
do you have another question?
No, but
Comment?
Robert, don't get so upset about this.
Well,
We're doing
just-
the right thing. We're
Well,
gonna do the right
thank
thing. We appreciate your opinion. Just lay it out there. We're all,
Calm.
Well, I guess my only,
we're all adults here. And if you get up there, it's like you're preaching down to me. Just talk to me
well,
regularly.
no, and I apologize. I apologize for that.
You're
And
intense about that, but
my apologize, but I guess my only frustration is I don't think I could have stated it any clearer in my opening.
well, we heard
remarks.
it. We got to hear it again, and it's on
And that's why I
record.
wanted to reiterate it.
So thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize if it appeared like,
No problem.
What did you say,
No
preaching?
problem, Robert.
Preaching down to us.
and secondly,
No problem, thank you.
all right, and from my vantage point, I'm just going, 10 seconds, this thing went much better than it's ever gone. So, you know, I hope it was okay to say that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so no one wants to attend the conference, so that motion's just gonna die. Okay. Number 8, lease report. The Louisiana State Board of Interior Designers will not, which I'm gonna, can I just give my report without a motion?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my report because we had this committee. I did speak with Debbie from the Interior Design Board, who did inform me that they are not gonna be able to, they just won't use our boardroom any longer. They have a specific amount of funds that they can spend for rent, and that is it, that was approved. They're done, so they're gonna have their meetings here, so they don't want to use our boardroom any longer.
Are they still gonna use the other office?
Yeah, their office, which they pay for. Yeah, right, just they're not gonna use our boardroom.
I think we're moving forward too with the drafting of the
Yes.
legislature to try to buy our own place with.
Correct.
That's
with
correct,
those,
that's
so,
correct.
Absolutely.
We're okay for that.
Right, but I just wanted to give my report that we did have a conference call and we discussed it, and I stayed on top of that, so they will not be using the boardroom. Okay. Number 9, Mr. Barnes' request for reimbursement of legal fees and ethics board investigation. Mr. McMillan, you have
Well,
us
Mr.
on there,
Burns had
so.
asked me to put this on the agenda for him, whether I agree or disagree with it. I wanted to have it on the
Maybe a
agenda so
motion
we
then?
could, have it on there. I'd make a motion for reimbursement.
Do I have a second?
I think we need to have some discussion.
Well, I need a second to have that.
Okay, I'll make a second.
Okay, I have a first and a second discussion.
I mean, I would like to know exactly what he's asking us to reimburse him for.
Okay.
Generally,
One
may I
second,
just
John.
finish?
Go back.
Generally, you shouldn't be reimbursed for something unless you're actually, it's with regard to, a board member defending themselves, as I understand the law now. The particular instance that he's asking for reimbursement for, my question is, were you a board member at that time,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burns? So if he was defending himself as a board member and a decision he made, I think under the law, he's entitled to get reimbursement, but not for a whole bunch of money.
It's $58.25.
$58.28.
Whatever it is, it's a less than $60. I'm just answering.
I would vote for that.
Okay.
Greg?
I would like for him to go up to the podium so we can find out. 'Cause who are you investigating, or they were
You want to
investigating
give your
you?
mother the camera?
Well, the tape's out. I'll have to replace it.